Welcome to chapter 2. This is the time where we need to start rolling up our sleeves, get into work, and get to learn a lot more about this thing. So chapter 2, I'm going to focus significantly on definitions so you guys understand bit by bit what the definition is. What's the definition of residual income? What's the definition of passive income? What's the definition of royalties income? What is the definition of linear income? What's the difference between linear income and passive income? Examples, how does this work? How does that work? And that's what we're going to be doing in this chapter 2, so you guys don't mix it up and know exactly how to be able to go. And most importantly, how do you create it when we're done? So the word residual income, when you look it up in the dictionary, could possibly give you an accounting term that says it's an income that is left after you've paid off all your expenses. And that's the definition that they do give in in residual income. That is not what we're talking about here. So passive income and residual income is interchangeable and means almost the same thing. In this context that we're going to be able to use it. And now I'm going to give you the definition of what passive income is so that you're familiar with what we are talking about. And I'm going to read this out for you. Passive income is the income that the type of money earned has been automated using a system or tools. That's one. The way you make money has been automated, that it could run on its own. Another definition says that it's the type of income that is generated continuously once the work is done once. That is the definition of passive, or what we call residual income. But let me define it in my way that I understand it to be. Passive or residual income is a type of income that you put in the system, the processes, the resources together in a way that once it is done, it begins to generate income for you with limited amount of time that you have to put into it. So if you put something together and in a way that you only need to be able to put 5 hours a week or 2 hours a week or 1 hour a day, and it could run on its own with or without you, and you could put in that time or hours that you're putting in it at your own convenience, then it would fall into something called the definition of what we say it's a passive income. You just want to automate it in a way that money could come in a way that you don't have to physically be there almost all the time, and it could run by itself for the most part. I give you a very simple example. You buy real estate. You decide to rent out that real estate. The property and your mortgage is $1,500. You rent out to somebody for $2,000. At the end of the month, you spend 1 or 2 hours a month to pick up the check, pay it into bank, maybe send somebody to fix one thing or the other, and you could do that at your convenience. That extra $500 that you make would qualify and consider itself for what we call passive or residual income. This is different from royalties income, and I'm going to be able to get you guys to royalties income. Royalties, on the other hand, is a little bit different from passive or residual income, because royalties income involves you that you get to do something one time, and by default, a lot of times after that, it begins to pay for itself over and over and over and over again. I give you an example. You write a book. You do all the work that's required for that book. You publish that book. The book is on Amazon or is on Audible. Every time they buy that book, you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is just cash out your royalties for selling a book. That's one part. They give you another example. You decide to become, if you're a singer, you decide to sing a song, you sing that song one time. Every single time that you sing that song and people listen to it, they pay you a little tiny royalties for being able to do that. I've just recently found a friend of mine that's a songwriter. He writes a song, sells it to a music company. And every single time, even though he gets a cash bonus for selling the song, every time that they sing the song or the song is played on radio or something, he gets about 70 cents every single time. That's royalties. Regardless of whatever he does, if done the work one time, they continue to pay over and over again. There are some components of residual income that would fall into that too as well, that you could do the work one time and get paid over and over again. However, getting paid over and over again will require some effort for you to continue to grow it to the point that it continues to pay you over and over and over again. And I'm going to talk about that when we get into the world of examples. So what we've done so far is we've defined residual and passive income as interchangeable, the same thing. In this context, we've talked about the definition of royalties income. Now let me get you guys into something called the linear income or the active income. Linear income or active income is a situation where you exchange your time for money. It could be a job, it could be a business. Doesn't matter. If I'm a doctor and I work $1,000 an hour and I work 5 hours a day, I'm worth $5,000 an hour. If I work 40 hours a week, I'm worth 40,000 hours, that 40 hours a month. I'm worth $40,000 in that month. What happens if I don't go to work for a whole month? How much do I make? Zero. That's active income. If I run a business and my business is in the business of trucking or moving or whatever it is, and I charge my clients $150 an hour, and averagely I spend 10 hours a day moving for them, it means that I've made $1,500 a day. I could pay all of my expenses. That's a business. And I spent a lot of time doing that. But if I don't move in one day, how much do I make? Zero. It doesn't matter if you're overseeing people who go and get the work done, or you yourself are involved in getting the work done. As long as there's no work, you make zero. That's completely different from residual and passive income. When you've set the process, you've set everything, and with or without you being there, the money keeps coming in. This is what we define as active linear income every time you exchange your time for money, either in a business or in a job. Somebody says, oh, I cook. I'm at home. I have all this time in the world. Yes. What happens if you stop cooking? You make zero. I was talking to my sister 3 days ago. I said, I made a lot of money selling wigs in the UK. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But what if you decide to say 6 months off and you don't sell that wig? How much money do you make? She looked at me and said, zero. I said, every time you exchange your time for money, what you have done is that you put yourself in a situation where if you don't do nothing, you make zero. But there's nothing wrong with active income or linear income. It is a base, it is a source. That's where we all have to work, get enough money, and then start investing in the right tools so that those right tools will be the one paying us in the future, so that when we decide not to work, it'll be the one that will trigger in a little tickle into the back of our pocket to a point where we can decide to take maybe extra. If you work in a place and they only give you 3 weeks vacation, you can do a no pay for another extra 4 weeks because you want to spend time doing what you love to do the most, and you don't have to bother about the money because you have something else that's triggering the income. A good sizable person should have some form of linear active income and should have some form of passive residual income, maybe a royalties income on it, and as a combination of a portfolio that is balanced enough that if they take time off, they're still good. If they decide to work, they're still good, regardless of whatever happens. So that's the definition of linear income, residual income, royalties income, and passive income. Okay. And I've just told you guys the different, or explained to you guys the difference between residual income, passive income, linear income, and royalties income. Royalties income, you do the work one time, it flows in a month after month, year after year. If you're a YouTube content producer and you put a really good content on YouTube and 1 billion people watch it, YouTube is going to be paying you as more people watch it. You don't have to go recreate that content. That's royalties. If you run a course, maybe you're so good at your profession and you decide to run a course out of your profession and you put it in a place where people can see it and they pay you for seeing it, even if it's $1.50, and people want to learn to be a pharmacist and they go watch that video on pharmacy and you make a little tiny 50 cents over time. If there's 1 million people who's watched it, it becomes royalties. You don't have to go recreate that content again. But residual passive income, you put in a little bit of time at your convenience to keep it going. Linear and active income, you put in all of your time and you're exchanging your time for money. And that's the definition of almost all of them. Now that we're familiar with passive income, residual income, active income, the next question would be, how do we create it? What do I need to create residual income? What do I need to create passive income? What do I need to create royalties income? And now I'm going to introduce you guys to the concept of sweat equity versus capital equity. Stay with me. Stay with me. You can approach your residual passive royalties income via 2 ways. You can either have capital to invest and set the processes and systems in place in a way that that capital begins to find a way to bring you income back at the end of the day, and you don't need to be able to get involved. A classic example of that is a lot, but a classic example of that is real estate. A property is $300,000. For some reason, maybe I pay $300,000 for it, or $150,000, or I pay $15,000 for it, or whatever it is, from 5%, 10%, 20%, whatever it is. I pay for it. I take possession of the property. I know that my mortgage and all the cost of running this place is $1,500. I take that property, I rent it out for $2,000. The extra $500. What you've done is you've used your capital to be able to create some form of residual income for you. And it's a classic example. Real estate is the number one classic example of capital investment doing that. But there's something called sweat equity. Sweat equity says, I don't have capital, but I want to get started today and I want to be able to make a little bit of residual income. In the same real estate, you could become a rental agent, approach 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of your friends and tell them, listen, I know you're busy, focus on what you're doing. I will be the one that will pick up the checks for you, make somebody get you to their house for you, help you rent that property to somebody. And every single month when that person pays, I will take 10% of the total gross income that comes in. So if the person pays $2,000, I will take $200, but I will do all that dirty work for you, and then I will pass over the remaining $1,800 to you. When you get $1,800, you can put $1,500 into your mortgage and your operating expense, and you could be sitting down on $300. That person who is that agent in that real estate who is doing that for you, I could only be doing it for 10 of their friends who has an average home of $2,000. He will end up making $2,000 a month and putting in few hours. He's still making residual income. Will be able to do it at their own time and convenience, except there's emergency. The majority of the time, they'll be able to run. When they put a system process in place, they don't need to have visited property for 3-4 months. They don't even have to pick up the check. The check could be, mailed to them. It could be automated, collected from their system. There's too many ways. But one person came in with capitals, and so the other person came with sweat, and both of them are eating out of the same pot called real estate. That's one good example that I can be able to give you guys in terms of that. So you now clearly understand what sweat equity is, what capital equity is. The question you need to be asking yourself right now is, where are you? Do you have the capital to play in some of the examples that we're going to give in subsequent chapters? Or do you just want to go with a limited amount of capital, then use your creativity, the creativity, the geniusness inside of you to be able to go in with almost zero capital and be able to still be able to earn residual and passive income without having the funds to go in? I've been involved in both, and I'm going to share you a lot of experience and examples on going in with capital and going in with sweat. In fact, I prefer to always go with sweat equity. Majority of my deals right now, I go in putting almost absolutely very little, if not nothing, inside of it, and I still have to be able to make some significant amount of money doing that. So what's the lesson learned for chapter 2? The lesson learned for chapter 2 is there is difference between residual income and linear income. Residual income and passive income, we're using it interchangeably. And there's, of course, royalties income. It has a little tweak into it. But most importantly, the lesson you should take away from this is you can either go in by sweat equity or you can go in by capital equity. If anybody ever told you that you cannot earn residual income except you need money to chase money, they just lied to you. There's so many creative ways that you can get into the world of residual income without having capital or any significant capital, maybe a little, very little capital that almost anybody can afford to be able to do, and then you can get into the market. The number 2 thing you need to learn about this message is, regardless of where you are, you could be in North America, you could be in Europe, you could be in Africa, it does not matter. The concept is universal. In any market that you find yourself, you could be able to position this concept in a way that once you learn the fundamentals, you will be able to apply it to almost absolutely anything. I will be giving you examples of some that I've done that are sweat equity in Africa, some that are capital equity in Africa, same thing in Europe, same thing in North America. Majority of my portfolio is in North America and in Africa, and I'll spend a lot of time distribution for you guys how to be able to get into this. So finally, the fundamentals is what we want to learn. Once we understand the fundamental, which Sweet in the Middle in chapter 3 will teach and help us understand, now you can go out there and use your sweat to get paid residual, or use your capital to get paid a lot of it. I'll see you guys in chapter 3.